Clara Barnett stepped into the mansion that was once her childhood home, now cloaked in shadows and dust. The air inside felt thick with sadness, a heavy weight that tugged at her heart as she crossed the threshold. The grand foyer was a relic of forgotten splendor, the ornate banister peeling like sunburnt skin. Every creak of the floorboards underfoot sounded like whispers from lost souls, echoing family secrets she had long been sheltered from. The sunlight filtering through the grimy windows could barely penetrate the gloom, casting shadows that danced along the crumbling walls. Clara's heart raced as memories of family gatherings, laughter and warmth collided with the melancholy that filled the air. This house, once vibrant and alive, had faded into a mere ghost of its former self, much like her own spirit. Curiosity began to stir within her as she pressed deeper into the mansion's embrace. It was then that she noticed an anomaly, a wall that wasn't in the original blueprints she had studied. It loomed in the atrium, a forbidding barrier that disrupted the flow of the space, as if it had grown there overnight. Clara's pulse quickened, a sense of unease crawling up her spine. It wasn't just an ordinary wall, it felt like a guardian of secrets, a sentinel against the truth. That night, as darkness enveloped Galveston, a chill settled over her. Clara lay in her old bedroom, the familiar yet unwelcoming quilt wrapped tightly around her, as though to ward off the sinister presence creeping through her thoughts. The house was silent, save for the soft sound of the ocean outside and the low murmur of the night. But soon, was it the wind? She heard whispers, soft yet insistent, drifting from behind the wall. The words were too faint to discern, but they beckoned to her, luring her closer with their haunting call. Driven by a mix of dread and strange curiosity, Clara spent the next days exploring the mansion with fervor. Her mother's writing desk caught her eye, its surface thick with dust, yet still holding an air of elegance. As she opened the drawers, the scent of aged wood and faded paper filled her nostrils. Tucked in a hidden compartment, she found letters, fragile yellowed sheets that revealed a tangled web of family ties, dark affiliations, and troubling truths that twisted her stomach. With every letter she read, Clara uncovered a piece of her family's hidden history, one that had been carefully buried under layers of stone and regret. The clock in the hall struck an eerie 13, a ghostly toll that echoed her mounting horror. Each revelation came with the weight of something horrific lurking just beneath the surface, waiting patiently for the chance to be unearthed. What had her mother kept from her? What battles had been fought within these shadowed walls? Standing before that ill-fated wall, Clara felt the oppressive weight of the past pressing against her, a reminder that some legacies are not so easily escaped. The whispers grew louder, and she knew she could not turn back now. Clara took a step back from the wall. The whispers swirled around her. Goosebumps prickled her skin. She felt the urge to knock on the wall, to challenge whatever was hidden on the other side, but fear kept her still. The house creaked like an old man with sore bones. She turned away, her heart pounding. The letters lay scattered around her in the dim light. "Mom, what did you hide?" Clara whispered to the empty room. She made her way toward the kitchen. The moonlight spilled through the window, illuminating the grimy countertops. She found her mother's old cookbook, thick with memories. It was a flimsy comfort at this moment. She clutched it tight. "Clara, you awake?" a voice called from the hallway. "Yeah, I'm here," she replied, her voice stiff. Her brother Jack stepped into the kitchen. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes. "Can't sleep? Too much on my mind." Jack rubbed his face. "Me too. It feels like this place is alive." "Yeah," Clara nodded, staring out the window. "Did you hear the whispers?" "What whispers?" Jack frowned. "From the wall," she said, leaning against the counter. Jack laughed, but it held no joy. "You're hearing things. This place is just old. It creaks and it groans. It's a house. You didn't see the wall." "What wall?" He stepped closer. "It's new. It wasn't in the blueprints. It's blocking the atrium." Jack shook his head. "You need to chill. You're spooking yourself out." "Am I?" she retorted. "Do you want to check it out?" "No, I don't want to. Not tonight." Fine, Clara said, biting her lip, but I'm going back to look. Good luck, he said, turning to leave. Jack, she called after him. What? Mama always said we have to face the past. He paused, his back still to her. No, it's not always true. We can't change it, Clara. Maybe we can't change it, but we can understand it. Fine. I'll be in my room, he muttered, disappearing down the hall. Clara felt a mix of anger and fear. She took a deep breath, clenching the cookbook. She had to know. She made her way back to the atrium. The wall loomed large. Clara pressed her ear to it. The whispers were clearer now, almost urgent. Let me in. The chill returned, wrapping around her spine. Clara stepped back. She noticed a small crack in the wall, almost hidden. With a swift motion, she pushed against it. The wall gave slightly. Is someone there? She whispered. No answer. But then the whispers surged again, a hissing sound, urgent and insistent. Clara felt her heart race. Stop it! She yelled, slamming her hand against the wall. Suddenly the wall shook. Dust and debris rained down. Clara stumbled back, wide-eyed. What the hell? She gasped, eyes darting around the dark room. Clara! Jack yelled from behind her. What? She shouted back, her voice high-pitched. Then it happened. The wall cracked open. A gap formed, wide enough for a hand to slip through. Clara stood frozen, fear setting in. Could she really look? Clara, what did you do? Jack yelled again, his footsteps rushing toward her. Before she could respond, the gap widened. A hand shot out. It was cold, pale as bone. Help me! A voice cried from within. Clara screamed, taking a step back. Clara, what's happening? Jack was beside her now, looking at the hand. Get away! Clara shouted, panic tightening her throat. Who's in there? Jack hesitated, eyes wide. Help me! The voice screamed again, haunting. Please! Something inside Clara twisted. She wanted to run, to escape, but she couldn't abandon whoever was trapped. Clara! We shouldn't! Jack began, but Clara was already stepping closer to the wall. Help me! It repeated, pleading, full of desperation. Don't! Jack grabbed her arm, but she wrenched free. Who are you? She demanded, voice trembling, eyes locked on the pale hand stretching toward her. I was one of them. You have to help me, please. Cold dread washed over her. One of who? Everything fell silent. The hand hung there, waiting. Clara's heart raced. She looked back at Jack, who was staring, jaw tight. Don't, he whispered, but it didn't reach her. Clara felt something, an urgency. An instinct. I'll find out the truth, she said, her voice steadying, and as she reached for the hand, the silence shattered. Clara, no! Jack screamed as the wall began to tremble again. They both stepped back as shadows swarmed the atrium. Clara seemed trapped between fear and curiosity, caught in a moment that felt like eternity, and then the darkness swallowed the light. Clara stood frozen, fear coiling tight in her chest as shadows danced around her and the wall trembled. Clara, what's going on? Jack's voice wavered, panic rising. I don't know, she shouted back, but I can't just leave them. Are you crazy? We need to get out of here. Help me, the voice cried again, desperate, pleading. No, Jack pulled at her arm, urgency in his grip. You don't know what that is. I have to know. She pushed his hand away. Clara, don't, he yelled, but the fear was too thick. Clara stepped closer to the wall. The hand was still reaching out, pale and cold. Help me, it said again. Please help me. Stop. Jack moved in front of her. Don't, we can't trust it. It needs help, Clara exclaimed. It could be a trap, he cried, glancing around. Look at this place. It's falling apart, and you want to reach into it. Clara hesitated, but felt drawn to the hand. The whispers intensified, swirling, curling around her. I have to help. Clara, back away. But Clara couldn't move. She felt tethered to that hand, to that voice. Who are you? She yelled, determination rising. Why are you trapped? The hand shook, trembling and cold. Trapped for so long, it whispered. Together, we can stop it. What's it? Jack shouted, feeling the tension spike around them. Clara's hand reached forward, inching closer to the outstretched fingers. Each breath hung heavy in the air. "Clara, no!" Jack lunged, grabbing her wrist. "Let me go!" she shouted, struggling against him. Just then, the wall shuddered violently. Dust fell like rain. "Clara!" Jack tightened his grip, shaking her. The hand slipped back inside the wall, and the whispers turned into a cacophony. "Help! Let me out! Stop it! Get away from there!" Jack yelled, pulling Clara back, urgency in his eyes. The wall groaned and cracked, pieces crumbling around them. "Stay close!" Clara shouted, fear prickling her skin. A sudden crash startled them. The floor beneath them shook. Clara stumbled, falling to one knee. "Clara!" Jack grabbed her arm, yanking her back to her feet. The room darkened, shadows closing in. "What's happening?" Clara gasped. "Run!" Jack shouted. They turned to flee, but the wall's gap widened again. "Help! Me! No!" Clara shouted, desperation seeping into her voice. "I can't leave!" Jack pulled on her. "We have to go!" Just then, the hand shot out again, seizing Clara's wrist. "Help!" it cried louder. "Clara, don't!" Jack swung his arm in a panic, the hand pressed against Clara's palm, cold and clammy. "You have to help! Let her go!" Jack screamed, fighting to pull her away. "Please!" The voice choked out. "You don't understand." "What don't we understand?" Clara shouted, her heart racing. Then, in an instant, the air shifted. A blast of cold swept through the room. The house groaned, the walls vibrating. "Help! Me! Let me go!" Clara shouted, pulling against Jack. In a flash, the wall exploded outward. Debris flew. Clara fell backward, the impact stunning her. "Clara!" Jack reached for her, panic etched on his face. But as he steadied her, a figure emerged from the darkness. A girl. "Help!" She stepped closer, hair matted against her face, clothes torn. "What the hell?" Jack breathed, wide-eyed. The girl looked desperate, her eyes wild. "They won't let me go. Please." "Who?" Clara asked, trembling. The girl pointed back at the wall, voice choked. "They're still here. They'll come for you too." The shadows thickened again, swirling like smoke. Clara and Jack backed away, fear flooding their senses. "Clara, we need to get out now," Jack shouted. "Wait," Clara said, stepping forward. "You don't understand. What's happening? They won't stop until you're all trapped," the girl screamed, reaching out for Clara. "You have to fight them." Jack jerked Clara back. "We can't trust her." The girl's face twisted in pain. "You don't know what this family did to me, to all of us." "What do you mean?" Clara pushed, fear and curiosity battling inside her. "I can show you. Please," she begged, tears streaking down her cheeks. Without warning, the shadows surged forward, wrapping around the girl. "No, get away!" Clara shouted. Suddenly the girl was pulled back, her scream echoing as darkness consumed her. "Jack!" Clara stumbled in shock. "Run!" he yelled, dragging her back toward the door. But the door slammed shut. "What?" Clara screamed, pounding on it. The whispers grew louder, urgent, drowning them. Shadows swirled, threatening to pull them under. Clara felt herself tipping toward the darkness. "We can't stay!" Jack yelled, eyes wild, fear coursing through him. "We need a way out." "No!" Clara screamed, panic rising. "I have to know the truth. Jack, we can't leave." "The truth?" he shouted. "It'll kill us." Clara glanced back at the encroaching darkness. The uncertainty gripped her. "We can't back down now." But as she said those words, the shadows whispered louder. "Join us. Join us." Jack shook her. "We need to go. Now." Clara felt the weight of the walls pressing in, the shadows prickling against her skin. "I won't let them take me." In that moment, as they turned to find an escape, Clara suddenly felt a sense of danger that made her freeze. "Jack!" "What?" The shadows loomed larger, closing in around them, filled with dozens of hands reaching out, grasping. "Are those?" Clara's voice faded as they stepped closer, eyes wide. "Clara?" Jack hesitated. As the darkness surged, the ghastly hands shot forward toward Clara and Jack, and in that moment Clara realized they were not just echoes of the past, they were the family. Clara and Jack stood frozen, eyes wide, as shadowy hands extended toward them. The children of the Barnett family could see the faint outlines of faces pressing against the darkness, mouths whispering in a cacophony of despair. "Jack!" Clara shouted, panic twisting her voice. "We have to get out." "Yeah, no kidding," Jack yelled back, scanning the room for any escape route. "Where's the door?" The walls quaked, dust raining down like confetti from a twisted celebration. The hands reached closer. Clara stumbled back, heart racing. Jack grabbed her arm. "This is bad," he said, breaths coming in quick hitches. "We have to work together." "Together?" "Right," Clara said, her voice shaky. "What do we do?" "Think. There has to be something," Jack shouted, pulling Clara away from the approaching shadows. But even as Jack looked around, the darkness enveloped them. "Help!" Clara yelled, desperation creeping in. "It's too late," Jack said, squeezing her hand. "They'll get us." Then the shadows shifted, swirling, and formed into a mass of people, distorted figures that looked like family members, faces twisted and eyes vacant. "Help us!" a voice called from the darkness. "Get away!" Jack screamed, trying to protect Clara, but she was drawn in. "Wait! What do you want?" Clara shouted back. The figures edged closer. "Join us!" "No!" Jack gripped Clara tighter. "Clara!" The voices echoed in unison. "You belong with us!" "They're lying!" Jack shouted, eyes wide with fear. "Don't listen to them!" The figures hesitated. Clara could see flashes of familiar faces. Abandonment churned in her gut. "No! Who are you?" she demanded. "Clara," one figure rasped, stepping forward. "Mom!" Clara's heart sank. Jack's grip tightened even more, pulling her back. "We need to go. Now!" But Clara stood firm. "What happened to you? Why are you like this? Help us! We're trapped!" Another voice cried, familiar but distorted. "Only you can free us." "Clara, don't!" Jack shouted. "You can't trust them." The figures reached out, fingers curling through the shadows. Clara swallowed hard. "I can't turn my back on them." Jack looked around, eyes darting. "Clara, we have to get out. It's not safe." Suddenly, movement caught his attention. A shadow detached itself from the wall. It stepped forward, revealing a woman with dark hair and hollow cheeks. "Clara, my dear girl," she said, her voice soft yet filled with a chilling undertone. "Mom?" Clara's voice quivered. "No," Jack said, alarm in his eyes. "It's not her. They won't let you leave. You have to join us," the figure said, stepping closer. "Get away from her!" Jack yelled, taking a step forward. "Step back!" Clara shouted, pushing Jack behind her. "I need to understand. What happened?" The figure smiled sadly. "We tried to protect you, but the house, it knows. Protect me. From what?" Clara's eyes narrowed. "The darkness," the figure whispered. "It eats away at the soul. It demands sacrifice." "Sacrifice," Jack said, confusion flickering across his face. "The family's will is bound to this house. You were chosen. You have to choose. Join us or be consumed." "No way! I won't be consumed," Clara shouted back. "I don't care about this dark legacy." A sudden tremor shook the ground. The figures in the shadows screamed, clutching their heads. "Clara!" Jack shouted, panic rising. The figure that looked like her mother reached out, a plea in her eye. "You must join me, Clara. We can be whole again." "No!" Jack yelled. "Don't listen." But Clara felt herself being pulled in. The shadows throbbed with energy, shifting around her, wrapping her in a blanket of darkness. "Help us!" the voice cried again. "No!" Jack felt his heart race. "Stay back! Clara, we're not doing this!" In that moment, one of the hands broke through the mass, seizing Jack's wrist. He gasped, eyes wide. "Clara! Jack!" she screamed. The shadows began dragging him toward the wall. "Clara, help me!" "No!" She lunged forward, grabbing his arm. But the ground shifted again. Clara lost her footing. "Jack!" In that split-second chaos, Clara saw something in Jack's expression. Fear, yes, but something darker beneath it, like a truth hidden. "Fight it!" he shouted, his voice strained as he fought against the grip of the shadows. "What's happening?" Clara yelled back, eyes darting between the engulfing darkness and Jack's face. "Clara!" He pulled harder, desperately clawing against the encroaching mass. You have to push through. Tell me the truth, Clara demanded, battling against the whispers swirling around her. What do we need to do? But Jack couldn't finish. The shadows began to pull him apart. No, I won't let them take you, Clara yelled, gripping his arm. As she held on, Jack's eyes widened. I didn't want you to find out this way. Find out what? Clara screamed as the chaos heightened. What's the truth? Before he could answer, the figure that looked like their mother surged forward. You must understand, Clara. It's too late for him. Stop! She shouted, disbelief tearing through her. Suddenly, Clara felt a cold pull within her. The darkness shifted, looming over Jack. Clara's heart raced. Jack! The shadows enveloped him, and in an instant, the darkness swallowed him whole. Jack! Clara cried, panic exploding in her chest. The hollow faces turned toward her, silent. The shadows quieted as if waiting. I'll save you! I'll find you! She yelled, but silence answered. The shadows didn't move, but their presence thickened. Help us, they whispered, echoing around her. Clara felt the fear wash over her, her eyes darting. What do you want from me? The faces answered with silence. Cold dread settled in. Then she realized the truth. The darkness didn't seek her help. It wanted her to surrender. No! Clara shouted defiantly, stepping back. I'll never join you! The shadows surged again, and Clara stood alone, heart pounding on the edge of a new fear. The darkness shifted, preparing for a new prey. She felt the room closing in. As the whispers began to chant her name, Clara took a deep breath. She had lost her brother, but she wouldn't lose herself. Clara! The shadows hissed, their voices weaving into a frenzied chorus. And that's when she made her decision. She would face the darkness. Even if that meant confronting what lay ahead, even if the truth could shatter her. Come on, she yelled into the abyss. I'm ready! But the darkness closed in, shattering her declaration. The shadows swarmed, eager to pull her into their depths. And just as Clara braced for impact, a blinding light broke through the enclosing darkness, flickering like a distant star. Help! She shouted, eyes wide with anticipation and fear. The light grew, crashing against the shadows. Clara felt a pull towards it, a desperate hope, and that's when everything went white. The light blasted through the darkness, blinding Clara. The shadows recoiled, writhing like smoke caught in an updraft. She stood there, heart racing. Clara! A voice rang out. She blinked, trying to see. Clara, come on! Mom? Clara called out, stepping forward, reaching for the light. No! Stay back! Echoed Jack's voice. She turned. Jack! I can't see! Where are you? He shouted, panic lacing his words. The light flickered and dimmed, casting long shadows that twisted around them. Clara felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Jack! She cried. Hold on! Clara! Jack yelled, voice frantic. Help! She screamed into the void. The pulling sensation was intense, almost magnetic. Clara! Jack's voice blended with the shadows. You can't let it take you! The darkness thrashed violently, pushing back against the light. Clara felt herself caught between both forces. The shadows whispered her name, their tones sweet and sinister. Clara, join us. No, I won't, she shouted. Jack, where are you? I'm right here. His voice was close but twisted, echoing like a memory. Don't listen to them. Clara blinked again. The light pulsed, radiating warmth against the chill creeping in. She strained her ears, desperate to find Jack's voice through the static of despair. Clara, please! The shadows pulled tighter, almost suffocating. Stop! She yelled, clutching her hands to her head. What do you want? What do you want with us? Help us. The collective whispers rose, a mournful song filled with ache. No, I won't help you, she shouted, forcing her legs to move. Jack, just keep your eyes on the light, he called, a beacon through the chaos. Clara focused, her feet pressing through the darkness toward the brilliance ahead. I'm coming, she yelled, fighting the weight pulling at her. Clara, Jack screamed. Suddenly the shadows convulsed. Help! The sounds grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. Clara! Jack shouted again, and then, as if a switch had flipped, the light burst outward, filling every corner of the atrium. Clara! Jack lunged to grab her arm. This way! The shadows shrieked, retreating as she stumbled closer to the brightness. She felt Jack's hand close around her wrist, pulling her into a solid grip. "Stick together," he said, eyes wide. The light grew, illuminating more than just their escape. It revealed the edges of the atrium, the ominous wall still standing tall, the remnants of their childhood memories surrounding them, filled with anguish. "Where do we go?" Clara gasped, panting heavily. "Not here," Jack urged, dragging her down a hallway. "We have to find another way out." She followed, heartbeat echoing in her ears. The air crackled with energy, warmth spreading through her body. The chaos of the darkness slowly faded away as they moved. Then, an unexpected crash echoed from behind. Clara stopped dead in her tracks. "What was that?" Clara whispered. "Keep going," Jack urged. "No, what happened?" Clara turned, feeling dread boil in her gut. The walls shook again, a low rumble that seemed to tear at the foundations. Clara turned to see the wall beginning to crack open. Dust fell like rain. "Jack, we need to go back." "No, we can't. This way." He pulled at her hand, but Clara couldn't look away. Suddenly, out of the cracking wall, a figure stumbled through, shadowy and contorted. "Help!" the voice moaned. "Who? Who is it?" Clara shouted, eyes narrowing. "Clara!" The figure came closer, emerging from the shadows. "What is it?" Clara demanded. Then the figure stepped fully into the light. It was a girl, her face pale and her hair tangled. "Help me, please," the girl cried, reaching out as if Clara held the key to her freedom. "Who are you?" Jack shouted, stepping protectively in front of Clara. "Help!" she screamed again, fear melting into desperation. "They're coming for you too." "Who's coming?" Clara said, her heart racing. "They'll trap you. You have to join us." The girl was shaking, her eyes wild. "No!" Jack yelled. "We don't trust anyone from here." "Jack, let her talk," Clara shouted. "Clara," he turned to her, confusion pinching his brow. "You don't know what this is." The girl took a step closer, voice trembling. "You must listen. This house, it won't let you go." "Enough," Jack snapped. "You'll lure her in just like the others." Clara's heart pounded. "Maybe she's right. We've been fighting this place, Jack. We can't just ignore." Before she could finish, the shadows surged around them, filling the air with agonized cries. "Help!" The girl pressed forward. "They're coming!" Jack's grip tightened on Clara's shoulder. "Stay with me." But Clara felt a shift, her resolve hardening. "No, I need to know." "Clara!" Jack shouted, but she was already stepping toward the girl. "Help us!" the girl cried, reaching out again. Suddenly the walls shook harder and the shadows exploded forward. The girl stumbled back, and Clara felt an unsettling chill wash over her. "Get back!" Jack lunged, pulling Clara away, but the figure transformed before their eyes. "Jack!" Clara yelled. He shouted back, "It's not her!" The girl's features twisted, her mouth wide as she screamed, "Join us! We'll never let you leave!" Clara stumbled back in shock as the room warped, shadows stretching like claws. "No!" she cried, backing up. Jack grabbed her arm. "We have to move, now!" They turned to run, but the shadows roared to life, a vortex spinning madly around them. Clara felt her feet lift off the floor, gravity turning to chaos. "This isn't good!" Jack yelled, pulling on her arm. "Hold on!" Clara shouted. The walls dissolved into darkness as they were flung back into the void. Clara screamed, unsure of where they landed, just that they had to keep moving. But the sound of the girl's last plea echoed in her mind as they soared into blackness. As they spiraled deeper, Clara screamed out, "Jack, we have to face them!" "No!" Jack yelled, terror spilling from his eyes. "I can't lose you too!" And then, as they fell into the dark, Clara heard the whispers return. "Join us! Join us!" And she knew they were closing in. "Fight!" Clara shouted, pushing herself against the pull of the shadows. "Fight!" The whispers turned into shrieks, filling the air with madness. And in that moment, Clara felt the truth wash over her. The family, they were not just trapped, they were waiting for her. "Jack!" she screamed. "We aren't alone!" But the shadows surged, and their screams built into a storm. Clara held her breath, bracing for what was to come. And before she could scream again, the darkness pulled them down. The last thing she saw was Jack's terrified expression, swallowed by the nothingness. The darkness surged around Clara and Jack, pulling them deeper into an abyss that swallowed sound and light. Their hearts raced in a chaotic drumbeat as they battled against the force, dragging them down into the unknown. "Jack!" Clara screamed, the void swallowing her words. "We have to get out!" "I know," he shouted back, panic lacing his voice. "But I can't see anything." Fear clawed at their throats, tight and suffocating. The shadows whispered, growing louder, filling their minds with haunting echoes. "Help! Join us!" They beckoned, voices a disjointed wail. "No!" Clara yelled, shaking her head violently. "Stop it!" In the depths of the darkness, a jolt of light flickered before them. It sputtered like a dying flame. Clara and Jack flinched, suddenly thrust into a strange, eerie glade, surrounded by darkness, but feeling something strange and cold beneath their feet. "What just happened?" Jack asked, scanning their surroundings. "I don't know," Clara breathed, eyeing the glimmer. "But we have to find the source of that light." "Okay," Jack said, hesitating, "but we need to stick together. I can't lose you, too." Clara grasped his hand. "Let's go." As they walked, the light flickered out again, dimming to a faint glow. The surroundings shifted, revealing walls punctuated by intricate carvings, each one a twisted reflection of their family, memories locked in stone. "Look at that." Clara gestured to a carving of their mother, her face twisted in eternal despair. "What happened to her?" "I don't know," Jack whispered, a chill creeping down his spine. "But we need to keep moving." The shadows loomed, closing in. Clara could feel them lingering behind. She quickened her pace, pulling Jack along until they reached a door carved from ancient wood. "Should we?" Jack hesitated, studying its intricate design. "We have to," Clara said, determination seeping into her tone. "It could be the way out." "All right," Jack said, nodding. Together, they pushed against the heavy door. It creaked open with haunting reluctance. Inside, they found themselves in a cramped room crowded with dusty furniture. An old mirror hung crookedly on the wall, its surface fogged with age. Clara stepped closer, instinctively drawn to it. "Clara, wait!" Jack called, his voice a warning, but she leaned in, brushing away the dust. Reflected back was not just her face, but a swirl of chaotic emotions, fear, anger, and sorrow, all blended into one. "Jack," she murmured, transfixed. "Look!" Jack came up behind her, and suddenly his expression changed. Alarm surged in his eyes as he stepped back. "Don't look too close. Something's wrong." "Why? What do you see?" Clara asked, her heart pounding as dread crept in. "Clara," he hesitated, taking a breath. "Your reflection." She turned, startled. But before she could question, the mirror rippled violently, and a dark figure began to emerge from its depths. "Help me!" the echoing voice cried. "Who are you?" Jack shouted, his eyes wide. "Please!" the figure begged, stepping forward. It was a girl, no older than Clara, with ghostly pale skin and matted hair. "I'm trapped!" "Get back!" Jack shouted, stepping protectively in front of Clara. But Clara felt a swell of sympathy. "Wait, what do you want? I need to be free, you can help me." The girl wept, her hands grasping the air. "No!" Jack cried, pulling Clara away. "Don't listen to her." Clara's heart raced. But before she could finish, the ground trembled. The mirror seemed to crack like glass, and the girl screeched, her expression twisted in terror. Shadows began to spill forth from the cracks, thick and churning. "Help me!" the girl wailed as darkness enveloped her. "Jack, we can't leave her!" Clara yelled. "I don't care!" Jack replied fiercely. "We need to go! Now!" With one frantic motion, he dragged Clara away, pushing her toward the door. But Clara's instincts screamed at her to stay. "No, I can't leave her." The girl's voice transformed. Dark laughter echoed from the shadows. "Join us, join your family." "Clara!" Jack shouted, panic surging in his voice. "Don't fall for it." Clara stepped forward, drawn toward the flickering remnants of the girl. "I can help you," she pleaded. But just as she reached out, the shadows erupted, pulling Clara back as if she were caught in a riptide. "Jack!" she screamed, fighting against the tide. In that moment of chaos, a loud thud reverberated through the room. The mirror shattered aflame, shards cascading down like rain. And as the flames licked fiercely, Clara saw someone else emerge, growing from the shadows. "Jack, look!" She pointed wildly as a familiar figure materialized within the swirling chaos. It was their mother, her expression twisted in agony. "What? No, not her!" Jack cried. "Mom!" Clara shouted, voice cracking. "Is it really you?" "Yes, my dear." The figure beckoned, her voice hauntingly sweet. "You must choose." "Choose what?" Clara felt her heart sink as the shadows throbbed, drawing nearer. Jack squeezed Clara's hand, a mix of fear and disbelief flooding through him. "We're not trusting her. This is a trick." "No," Clara pleaded, stepping toward the figure. "We can save you. We can be a family again." Jack pulled her back with a force of desperation. "Clara, don't! This isn't real!" The shadows wove around their mother, her face folding and contorting, and Clara couldn't help but stare. "Mom, please!" But only the echo of her name returned. Then, in a sudden shift, she whispered, "Clara, Jack, trust me. This is how we break the curse." "What curse?" Jack spat as Clara lingered, her heart torn between fear and longing. The ground shook, fire and shadow merging as the darkness around them intensified. Jack's grip slackened. "Jack, this might be our only chance," Clara shouted over the rising din. "No!" he cried, eyes narrowing. "You don't know what you're saying!" Suddenly, Clara felt the air thicken around her. A wall of shadows surged forward, crashing against Jack and Clara, pushing them toward the mirror. "Help!" Clara screamed as the shadows twisted. Then, with a shocking blast, the darkness shattered, revealing the truth. Jack stood visibly shaken, eyes wide as he backed away. "Mom, it's you!" Clara's voice trembled. In that instant, time stood still. Flames danced, illuminating the room, revealing shadowy echoes of memories long buried. And then Jack spat, "This is all one big lie. You're not our mother." The reaction was immediate. The figure faltered, becoming shrouded in shadow as anger heated the air. "You dare!" she hissed. "What do you mean?" Clara tore her gaze away from the figure. "What are you hiding?" "I'm not," Jack started, his face draining of color. "Stop!" the figure cried, her anger piercing through the tension. "Tell me the truth, Jack!" Clara demanded, desperation cutting into her words. "What's really going on here?" Jack looked between the hovering figure and Clara, breath hitching. Then the shadows began to close in again, the room vibrating with chaos. I can't!" Jack shouted, inching back, panic rising. "You don't know what they'll do." "Tell me!" Clara yelled, her heart racing as fear swelled in her chest. At her outburst, the tremors intensified, and the figures in the shadows screamed. A cacophony of despair rumbled beneath the chaos. "Clara, please!" Jack pleaded, his voice breaking. But under the pressure, the truth slipped from his lips like poisoned words. Everyone who helped." And then the shadows surged up, swallowing both Jack's voice and Clara's breath. The darkness drew in tightly, wrapping around them. And in the midst of the chaos, Clara found herself staring into the abyss of shadows and flames, realizing that the bonds they once shared were now chained in misery. "Jack!" she shouted, but it barely reached him. In the corner of the crumbling room, the figure of their mother lingered, caught between flesh and shadow, but behind her secrets began to unfurl like tendrils creeping into the air. With every breath, the walls of their family began to fracture. "Clara!" Jack cried again, but the shadows pulled tighter, threatening to consume them both. What truth was buried in the darkness? What history would they uncover before it was too late? And as she grasped for the flicker of hope, Clara knew she had to act. "Jack, we have to fight!" But just as she turned to face the darkness once more, she realized the grip of darkness wasn't just on the house. It was inside them too, and they needed to decide how far they would go to overcome it. In that moment, Clara held her breath, bracing for what lay ahead. The shadows swirled and the flames roared, ready to claim their spirits. Clara held her breath, staring into the abyss. The shadows swirled around her and Jack, cold and suffocating. The air crackled with tension, the whispers growing louder as they pushed against the darkness. "Clara!" Jack shouted, grabbing her arm. "We have to move!" "No! I need to know!" Clara cried, her heart pounding in her chest. The shadowy figure of their mother loomed closer, her eyes hollow. "Join us, Clara. You can be free." "Jack, she's our mum!" Clara protested, stepping toward the figure. "No!" Jack yelled, panic rising in his voice. "It's a trick. They're all tricks." But Clara couldn't look away. The resemblance was too strong, too painful. "I have to know. What do you want from us?" The darkness shifted, and the shadows hissed like a living thing. The figure morphed, confusion and anger crossing her face. "Help us! Save your family! Clara!" Jack shouted again, trying to pull her back. "We can't stay here!" The room shook as whispers filled their ears, a whirlwind of voices chanting their names. "Join us! Join your family!" Clara took a hesitant step back. "This isn't real." "Clara," Jack said, urgency in his tone, "we need to fight. We can't give in." With a sudden surge of resolve, Clara shook her head. "No, I won't let them take you too." "Won't let them take me?" Jack scoffed. "I'm not going without you." The figure reached out, the shadows swirling around her like tendrils. "If you join me, you can save us all." "Clara, don't listen!" Jack yelled, his grip tightening. Clara's heart raced. "What do they want?" The shadows convulsed, creating a momentum that drew her in. "Freedom, find the source, end the curse," the figure cried, desperation rippling through her words. "What do you mean?" Jack shouted, eyes darting between Clara and their mother. But before they could grasp the reality of it, the darkness surged forward, sucking the air from the room. "Jack!" Clara screamed as the shadows enveloped them both. Suddenly everything exploded. The walls crumbled around them. Dust and debris filled the air. "Clara!" Jack shouted, trying to find her through the chaos. "I'm right here!" She called back, her voice hoarse. The floor shook violently. Clara could barely keep her balance. "Run!" Jack urged, pulling her in the direction of the door. But just as they reached it, a blinding flash of light erupted from the center of the room. They shielded their eyes from the brightness as the shadows shrank back, their shrieks echoing against the walls. "Go! Now!" Jack yelled, pushing Clara through the door. They stumbled into a narrow hallway, lines of old portraits lining the walls, faces staring down at them with hollow eyes. "Where are we?" Clara gasped, her chest heaving from fear. "I don't know," Jack replied, trying to catch his breath. "But we can't stay here." The shadows still whispered behind them, but they were fading. "Did we get away?" Clara asked, panting. "I think so." Jack breathed heavily, glancing back. "But we need to keep moving. They won't give up easily." Clara nodded, determination flooding through her. They hurried down the hallway, sprinting toward the next door at the end. "Let's get out of this hell," Jack said, pushing the door open. It led to a grand parlor, the ceiling high, the decor grand but eerily quiet. A heavy, dusty chandelier hung overhead. "This doesn't feel right," Clara murmured, scanning the room. Jack's eyes darted about. "We need to find a way out. Now!" Before they could step further inside, the chandelier flickered, and a sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut behind them. "Great," Jack said, frustration boiling over. "Just great." "Look!" Clara pointed. A fireplace flickered in the corner, its flames dancing violently. "Okay," Jack said, cautious, "but it could be a trap." "Or a way out," Clara countered, moving toward it. As she stepped nearer, the flames erupted higher, revealing their mother's face in the gleaming light. "Help me!" the figure wailed, her voice echoing. "Mom!" Clara gasped, the warmth pulling her in. "No!" Jack shouted, stepping in front of Clara. "It's a trick. Fight it." "Clara!" the figure pleaded, eyes pleading desperately. "Stop!" Jack yelled. "We have to hold on. She's not real." But Clara felt tears welling up, a need to understand. "What happened to you? Why are you trapped?" "I'm here to save you," the figure cried, stretching a hand out. "No!" Jack shouted, panic escalating. "Get back!" And just then the flames exploded, igniting into fireballs that filled the room. Dust and ash rained down. "Jack!" Clara screamed, covering her face. "Clara, now!" he bellowed, pulling her back as the shadows surged again. "Not again!" she yelled, heart thudding against her ribs. "Listen to me!" Jack yelled over the chaos. "We have to get to the window, now!" They rushed toward it as the shadows lunged behind them, the air thick with despair. "No! Stop! We'll never let you go!" The voices shrieked, echoing in unison. Clara felt the heat close in, fear coiling tightly around her. They reached the window, a sturdy frame glimmering in the dim light. "Help me open it," Jack shouted. "You think it'll be easy?" Clara asked. "We've got no choice." They pushed against the window, but it wouldn't budge. The shadows closed in, reaching for them. Clara felt her heart race. "We can't give in." "Clara!" Jack yelled. "Do you see the latch? It's stuck. I can't get it. Just pull on 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. They heaved with all their might, and suddenly the window flew open, slamming against the wall. The rush of fresh air poured in, and with it came a swirl of shadows. "Out!" Jack commanded, pulling Clara through. But just as she jumped, the ground below them shifted. The room cracked open into nothingness. "Jack, no!" Clara screamed. Suddenly, the floor crumbled, and they both fell into darkness, into a pit of swirling shadows. "Hold on!" Jack shouted as they tumbled down, arms reaching for something, anything. The world spun, and Clara felt the shadows closing in. She still fought against the pull, against the voices. "Join us!" they chorused, talons grasping. But then Clara saw a flash of light within the depths, blinding and beautiful. "Jack, we have to reach it." "I see it," he yelled, determination igniting in his voice. They twisted in the air, pushing against the shadows, but Clara felt the weight of the darkness pull her back. "Keep going!" she cried, grasping Jack's arm. The shadows clawed at them, their cold fingers tracing Clara's skin, trying to drag her down. "I won't give in!" she yelled, grasping for the light. But just as they reached for it, the darkness pulsated violently. A roar erupted from the void, shaking the very fabric of reality. "Clara!" Jack shouted wildly. "It's too strong." Then another figure appeared in the light. A familiar one. "Mom!" Clara gasped, disbelief washing over her. And in that moment, the light dimmed, shadows collapsing around them, pulling everything into a singularity. "Save us!" the echoes screamed. "Clara!" Jack shouted, still holding on. "Don't let go!" she yelled. The shadows loomed larger, and as Clara's fingers unclenched, she felt everything twist around her. "Jack!" And then, in a dizzying flash, everything went dark. The last thing Clara felt was the cold grip of shadow before being swallowed whole, leaving everything unspoken, unresolved, and once again they were lost in the void. Clara and Jack fell into the darkness, a bottomless void that swallowed them whole. The sensation was like drowning but without water, just pressure and cold. "Jack!" Clara's voice echoed around them, lost in the shadows. "Where are you?" "Right here!" Jack's shout was close but strained, like he was fighting against the pull. "Hold on!" The darkness squeezed around them tighter. Clara felt her breath catch in her chest. "Just hold on!" Jack called again. "We need to reach that light." Clara strained to see. A flicker in the distance, glimmers of brightness that seemed so far away. "We can't lose it." "Keep pushing," Jack yelled. "We're almost there." They clawed through the dark, desperate to reach that light, but it felt like running in molasses, every movement a struggle against the thick shadows that clung to them. "I can't breathe," Clara gasped, panic rising in her voice. "Don't think about it," Jack shouted. "Just keep going." Suddenly the ground beneath them solidified, throwing Clara and Jack forward. They landed hard on the floor, solid ground. "Where are we?" Clara pushed herself up. Jack was next to her, shaking his head. "I don't know, but we're out of the pit." The room was dim, filled with a heavy air. They were in a small chamber, walls lined with old photographs, all of them familiar faces, all twisted into grim expressions. Their family. "I hate this place," Jack muttered, standing slowly. Clara's eyes darted around the room. "What now?" "Find another way out." He pointed to a door on the other side. "Let's go," Clara said, moving toward it. A chill ran down her spine. She felt like they were being watched. They reached the door, and Jack pushed it open. Wood creaked against age, revealing a narrow hallway. "Stay close," Jack warned. "What if they're waiting for us?" Clara whispered. "They probably are," Jack replied firmly. "Just keep moving." They walked down the hall, the shadows twisting behind them, following like a whisper. Each step seemed weighed down by the history of the house, the darkness growing heavier. "Do you hear that?" Clara stopped. "Hear what?" Jack asked, glancing back. "Voices," Clara whispered, straining to listen. "What do you mean?" "From the walls, and they're calling our names." Jack's eyes widened. "No, they can't be." Clara nodded, fear twisting in her stomach. "I swear." "Forget it," he said, pushing her to move forward. "We're not staying here." They continued forward, the air thickening. The walls trembled as they moved, shadows pulsing like a heartbeat. "Here," Jack said, pointing to another door. "Let's see what's behind this one." He opened it and they stepped inside. This room was larger. A table was in the center, littered with candles and old trinkets, things Clara remembered from childhood. "What is this place?" she breathed, touching a porcelain doll. "It's like a shrine," Jack replied, eyes wide. "But why?" Before Clara could respond, a figure appeared in the doorway. "Help me!" it cried, a voice Clara recognized. "Mom!" Clara whispered, fear darting through her. "Get away!" Jack shouted, stepping in front of Clara, fists clenched. "Please, you have to believe me!" The figure stepped closer, panic etched on her features. "The darkness, it wants you both." "Mom!" Clara pleaded. "We can help you, just come here!" "No!" Jack yelled louder, shaking his head. "It's a trap!" "Shut up!" Clara screamed, and her mother's face twisted in pain. "Clara, listen to me!" But Jack pulled her back. "Don't! She's not real." "I am real," her mother cried, her voice breaking. "You must trust me." Clara's heart raced. "What do I do, Jack?" "Fight it!" Jack roared, pushing against the air like he could force the shadows back. "Mom!" Clara felt her resolve wavering. "You're here! You can help us!" Suddenly, the shadows in the room flickered and closed in tighter. The candles blew out, smoke swirling high. "Join us!" the darkness hissed. "No, you don't control me!" Jack shouted, backing away, pulling Clara with him. "Clara, help me!" the figure begged. "Help!" Jack spat. "Help what? You're just like the rest of them." "Jack, she's our mom!" Clara yelled, tears streaming down her face. "We have to fight with her." "Enough!" Jack shouted over the chaos. "I won't let her take you." And then, amidst the noise, Clara felt a shift in the air. A shadow broke free, and she recognized it immediately. "Jack!" Clara breathed, backing away. Jack turned. "What did you say?" "Look!" A taller, darker figure materialized behind their mother, a man wrapped in shadows, his presence smothering. "Dad!" Clara whispered, staring wide-eyed. "Come, Clara," he said, his tone like ice. "We can finally be a family again." "No!" Jack yelled, eyes blazing. "Clara, don't you see? This is not our family anymore. It's a sick joke." "Jack!" Clara felt the pull of darkness. "It's a trap," Jack shouted, stepping forward. "You're not my sister." "What are you talking about?" Clara yelled, confusion flooding her mind. "Clara, you can't trust them." Jack pushed her back. "You're fighting it. Don't let them in." But all Clara could see was her father, so close yet so far. "Dad, is it really you?" "Join me," he said again, voice dripping with false warmth. "No!" Jack's voice cracked with desperation. "Clara, don't!" "Clara!" their mother screamed, twisting as shadows clawed at her. "Fight!" Jack shouted, panic rising. "We have to get out." But the shadows began to seep down into the corners of the room, pulling at the edges of reality. "Join us!" they echoed, growing louder and louder. "Jack, Clara felt her heart pound. "I want him back." "No!" Jack lunged, his hands on her shoulders. "You can't want this." The shadows enveloped them, swirling tighter. Clara could feel her body fighting against the power pulling her in, and then it hit her. "Wait!" Clara exclaimed, realizing the truth. "Those photos, everyone in them, they're not just memories, they're trapped." "Yes, they are!" Jack shouted, his voice a whip crack. "This place wants us to join them forever." Clara's heart raced. "But we have to do something. We can't leave them." "Clara!" Jack begged, holding her tighter. "No more delays. We're getting out of here." And then, to their horror, they realized the shadows were not just swirling, they were taking form, stretching toward them, mouths agape, faces forming in the gloom. "Join us!" they all wailed in unison. "Clara!" Jack screamed, panic setting in. "Please, don't let them take you, don't—" And just then, the ground beneath them cracked wide open. All at once the shadows surged toward them, darkness rushing for the light. "Jack!" Clara cried out. "Hold on!" he shouted, gripping her arm, but it was too late. They both fell into the maw of darkness, swallowed whole. The last thing Clara heard was Jack's scream before everything turned to black. And as the darkness closed in, she realized the fight was far from over. Clara felt a jolt, and then darkness closed in around her like a thick fog. She couldn't see, couldn't hear. It was just nothing, a void where time stood still. But gradually, as if waking from a dream, she felt the weight lift. Suddenly, her surroundings snapped back into focus. Clara found herself standing in the grand foyer of the mansion, the wooden floors gleaming beneath a soft glow of light. Jack stood beside her, eyes wide, both of them looking around as if they had just stepped out of a storm. "What just happened?" Jack asked, breathless. "I don't know," Clara replied, glancing around. The house felt alive again, like it was breathing, like it had been waiting for them to return. "But I think we're back. Do you think it worked?" Jack looked at her, doubt in his eyes. But Clara felt a strange determination building within her. "It has to have worked. We broke the curse. We faced the darkness." "Yeah, but did we really?" Jack's brow furrowed. "We could still be trapped." Clara stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "No, we have to trust ourselves. We confronted it. We can't let it take us anymore." As she spoke, the shadows in the corners of the room shifted and receded, as if the house itself was agreeing with her. The air felt lighter, free of the heavy weight of despair that had cloaked it for so long. "Look!" Clara pointed toward the staircase. "The family portraits. They're different." Jack followed her gaze, and indeed, the dusty images on the wall had transformed. Instead of sorrowful faces, each portrait now radiated warmth, even joy. Their family, once shrouded in darkness, looked alive. The joy in their expressions sparkled like sunlight. "This can't be real," Jack whispered, stepping closer as if he feared it might vanish. Clara smiled. "It is. They're free." She felt the warmth spread in her chest, the realization washing over her. She could feel them. And then a soft voice drifted through the foyer, echoing like a gentle breeze. "Clara, Jack, you did it." The siblings turned in unison to see their mother standing there, her figure shimmering like a mirage. But she was whole, her face radiant with a smile. "Mom!" Clara gasped, stepping forward, tears springing to her eyes. "Is it really you?" "Yes, my dear. You've released us. You found the courage to face the truth." "What about Dad? Where is he?" Jack asked tentatively, the hope in his voice reluctant. "He is coming," she said, her smile unwavering. "We are no longer alone. The shadows can't hold us now." "But how?" Jack's voice cracked, searching for the answers he truly wanted. "Through love and courage. You both overcame fear. You shattered the chains of the past." Clara looked at Jack. "We did it together. We faced the darkness side by side." Their mother nodded. "Exactly. And now we're free. But you must remember, the darkness never truly disappears. It's a part of us, but it doesn't control us anymore." Clara's heart raced. "Mum, can we leave together? Can we go home?" "Yes," she said, stepping closer, reaching out as if to encompass them in that warmth. "Together, we can finally heal." In that moment, Clara felt the weight lift, both from her heart and the house. Then the front door creaked open, revealing a world drenched in sunlight. The air outside tasted fresh and vibrant. Clara smiled, and she knew they had done it. They had broken free. "Let's go," Clara said, grabbing Jack's hand tightly. "Let's start anew." Together they walked toward the open door, the shadows behind them fading into whispers they could no longer hear. Clara glanced back one last time, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. But then, just as they stepped outside, a chill fluttered through the air. A faint whisper brushed against Clara's ear, sending a shiver down her spine. "Clara," it hissed, "you're never really free." She turned back, her heart racing, wanting to dismiss it, but as she stepped further into the light, she noticed a flicker of darkness lingering at the edges of the door. "Mum, did you see that?" Clara asked, panic creeping back in. "Stay strong, my dears," her mother said softly, her expression steady. "This is just the beginning." And just like that, Clara felt a swell of hope. Yes, it was just the beginning. They had faced the worst, and they could do it again if they needed to. Hand in hand, Clara and Jack stepped fully into the daylight, prepared to embrace whatever next lay ahead. And even with the faint whispers lingering, they felt ready. Now, more than ever, they felt alive. But what shadows would they face next? Only time would tell. If you loved this tale, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support so you don't miss the next exclusive stories packed with intrigue and suspense. Press that like button now to feed the algorithm, and we want to hear from you. Comment with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't hold back. And don't wait another second to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know this story. Your support makes all the difference. It's all